Thank you, Chair. It is a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. I want to thank the Right Honourable Member for Kenilworth and Southend for organising this important debate and for all his continued work scrutinising this piece of legislation. The Online Safety Act was a landmark step towards making the internet a safer place, particularly for our children. But since then, its implementation has fallen far short of what Parliament intended, hampered by Ofcom's slow pace and limited ambition. Initially, the Act was designed to make sure that tech companies take responsibility for protecting users, especially children, from harmful content. But the current approach taken by Ofcom undermines this intent in several ways. Having waited over a year for Ofcom to complete its consultation over the illegal content codes of practice, these codes failed to enforce a robust safety by design approach. Instead of proactively mitigating risks, many of its measures focus only on responding to harm after it has already occurred. And the Children's Safety Codes, which is still in draft, appears to follow a similarly disappointing trajectory. Features such as live streaming, ephemeral content and recommender algorithms, tools that are frequently exploited for online abuse, are also not meaningfully addressed in the current framework. And the Act has significant shortcomings in that it is also allowing companies to be deemed compliant simply by following Ofcom's codes, regardless of whether their platforms remain unsafe in reality. This means tech giants are permitted to hide behind a regulatory shield rather than being forced to address known risks on their platforms, all while children continue to be exposed to harm. The Act was also explicit in requiring protections tailored to different age groups. But as Ofcom has implemented the Act, a 7-year-old and a 17-year-old are treated as if their online safety needs are identical. In doing so, Ofcom has fundamentally failed to recognise how children's development affects their online experiences and their vulnerabilities. And of course, the action on fake and anonymous accounts has been slow and weak. This was a huge area of focus for parliamentarians before the Act was passed, and Ofcom itself identified this as a major risk factor in crimes such as terrorism, child sexual exploitation, harassment and fraud. But as we approach 18 months since the Act's passing, there has been no change for UK users, and instead of prioritising verification measures, Ofcom has pushed them to a later phase of implementation, delaying real action until at least 2027. This is unacceptable, especially when Ofcom's own research shows that over 60% of 8 to 11-year-olds are active on social media, despite existing age restrictions prohibiting this. The Government and Ofcom delays in introducing user identity verification measures are unacceptable because the harms associated with fake and anonymous accounts are deeply personal and painfully real, with millions of Britons suffering from online abuse, scams and harassments each year. So I hope the Minister today can provide a robust explanation for the timidity and the delay and rule out any suggestion that the delays are a result of lobbying pressures from platforms. I'd also add that the best assurance she can give this to parliamentarians today would be a commitment for verification measures to be brought forward to 2026 so that UK internet users are better protected. So in short, the Minister today can recognise how urgent it is to take the following action. Ofcom must revise its codes to require proactive risk mitigation. Tech companies should not be allowed to claim compliance with the regulatory framework, all the while continuing to expose users to harm. If platforms fail to meet the real safety standards, they must be held accountable. And lastly, protections need to be specific to different age groups so that younger children and teenagers receive appropriate levels of safety and access. Thank you.
Vice